that makes it look like you're going to pay for it twice. It's a failure. Did you? No. It's a failure, not necessarily of Entrix, but of management. One needs to manage the contract so the consultant doesn't charge you 2 or 3 times. Also, the contract, the first version, or what we believe to be the first version that you find beginning on page 109, lists in various places the data that Entrix would obtain, and then their explanation that that data would be part of their report. And this is not at all comprehensive, but if you look at tasks 2 and 3.3 of that original scope of services, one would expect their report to include a 2001 cost of service study, how that was applied to the 2002 and 2003 budget, their prior study for the 2008 or the prior version for the 2008 budget, the information, the equitable distribution plan, and the billing records of your customers. And the billing records are interesting. I mean, they mentioned billing records specifically at task 3.3. Interesting because the appendix in the draft report actually does include some lists of billing records with really specific ones. It's just for a small subset. So you've already made a subset rather public. Where's the rest? Again, the point here is not that you shouldn't do a cost of service study or something equivalent. That's actually a useful thing to do. The problem is that the contract does not seem to be managed well, and there are these glaring flaws. And the way we read the present amendment is that the final version is not going to be done until April. They're looking at meetings in March, and then the final version, I suppose, being produced roughly April. Does that also mean that you're not going to ask for your customers to approve the rates until you finish your study, or even to go out and ask your customers to approve a rate even before you finish the study on which your rate increase is based? And that actually is a question. That's not rhetorical. Are you going to wait to have the study, or are you going to ask everyone to tax themselves further even before you finish the study?
We're going to do the 218 vote and see how it turns out.
So the answer is yes, you're not actually going to wait until the study is completed to find out whether you have justification to ask for the increase. Okay.
Well, I will say this from my standpoint. I've been on this board for 4 years now, and I fought hard to hold the water rates at $17, and we managed to do that. And in some ways, looking back, that may have been a mistake. You have cost of inflation and other things, and I know that after the QSA was signed, that the board lowered the water rates $1, and that hurt the water department by about $2.5 to $3 million. And we've tried to take care of the farm community here and keep the water rates down. My dear friend Steve Scaroni at CoLab was jamming me last Friday because I used to stand up here and complain about the water rates going up. But when I started farming and ordering water and paying for it in 1971, I think we were paying $2.50 an acre foot. Water's steadily gone up over the years, whether it's due to inflation or cost of doing business or whatever it is. So I think this board has been very conscious of trying to work with the farmers and hold the rates in line and take care of the farming community. But, so I mean, the cost could be, you guys are complaining about the $20. We said $20. It may not go to $20. That hasn't been decided yet. But rates could have been a lot higher than that also. So we're going to go through this cost of study and see what it says. We've got a 218 vote coming. And there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of unknowns out there, Mr. Bursey. But I will tell you this, we've got a business to run here as a board. And we've got to move forward. It takes 3 votes around here to get things done, whether people are like it or not, but that's the way it is.
I'll agree
Got
with
lots of lawsuits where people are suing us left and right. but we still have decisions to make and we still have a business to run around here.
I'll agree in this one limited respect. It would have been a good idea for IID to ask its customers what rates they're willing to pay when it was time to ask them. That is generally a good way to run a public business in the state because the Constitution requires it. So I do agree that putting it off was probably a really bad idea on IID's part. And again, don't look to us to say that it's broken record. We've been telling you 218 is necessary for years now, so won't accept any blame on that end. But if I understand you correctly, and I guess we'll see what happens, is that this cost of service study is unrelated to what you're going to ask on your Prop 218 Section 6 proceeding. That's what it sounds like, if you're going to go out to the Proposition 218 vote before you've completed a study. Thanks.
Go ahead, Mr. I don't know if this is for Ms. Barber or Carlos. Do you review this? Have 100% of the deliverables from the original service agreement, the amended service agreement, have they all been met?
Yes, with this agreement, because we still have the presentations.
And that part is different than the original cost of service the original service agreement, the amended service agreement. All those deliverables have been met. This is something totally new, and it costs $36,000.
Well, and this is for the presentations. What happened was the scope, when we changed it, we added in from the last service agreement amendment, we added in the approach, and that would provide 3 different approaches. That was not anywhere in the original scope of work. And that's what expended those funds and why we're coming back again for this service agreement to incorporate the presentations that were actually in the last service agreement amendment because we used those funds for the approach. And now we're back again for the actual presentation.
Everything else has been met, 100% of all the other deliverables.
Well, or it's being met. This is absolutely new work. That's the short answer.
Yeah, I've got a question. The presentation that's going to be given to us is part of the scope of work, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But there was additional information requested. Okay. But this has the appearance that the presentation is what we're being charged for. The scope of work that was modified, to me, is what should have came forward to the board for approval.
On the previous service agreement?
Yeah, because I
Well-
was debating, gee, it was going to cost $36,000 to have a presentation.
Well, and that's 2 different presentations. That's preparing the presentations, travel, coming down, doing the actual workshop and the
But that was
board.
in the original quote.
Right.
Okay, so the part that wasn't in the original quote, what was the cost of that? Basically the same amount, right?
Essentially, yeah. And I could get the
Yeah.
actual, I don't have the figures of the invoice in front of me, but we could get that information.
The question about, or the comment about paying double, will you look this over and make sure we're not paying?
Absolutely.
One last question. Are we going to go to a vote before this comes forward?
No.
Okay.
Greg, you want to talk about that? About the schedules?
No, we're going to have Intrex come out and have a discussion on their cost of service study. And then we're also going to have a workshop before the rate hearings. But the vote will not be taken until after the 45-day deadline.
So basically, the cost of service study, and this is what I'm looking for in the presentation, is not basically an efficiency study. It is cost of doing business. We're currently doing the practice that we currently uphold with no recommendations for changing them.